Trailers. My favorite book this year was Center Fielder. The author of this book is Robert Lipsyte. My favorite part of this book is when Mike starts punching the bat boy until he bleeds. This book is about a kid. He has to compete for the spot center field. He has to compete in school and everything. He gets in trouble with the cops, gets kicked off the team. He has to go on a self-trial to figure out what to do with his life. I think you should read this book if you like sports. You will really like this book.
The book was Eleanor and Park. The author is Rainbow Rowell. My favorite part was when Park starts wearing eyeliner because he likes the way it feels to wear makeup and it brings out the real him. You will want to read this book because it's a really good book.
I like this book because the rebels invade the capital. Katniss, Gale, Peeta, and Boggs are on a special mission to shoot video to keep people in the rebellion. I think people will like this book because there is a lot of action. This book is by Susan Collins.
Out of My Mind is one of my favorite books this year. It is by Sharon M. Draper. Out of My Mind is about a girl named Melody. She is in a wheelchair and cannot talk. Little does everyone know she knows so much. She loves to read and soak up information. Finally, a few times a week, they get to go to a regular 5th grade classroom. She got an aide named Charlotte. Melody had to take a test like all the other 5th graders. It was a test for the math bee. Melody's neighbor taught her how to do so much. How to fall out of the couch and what to do if her chair got unbuckled. Later, she got something that helped her talk and make sentences easier. My favorite part was when Mrs. Valencia got her more words and made sentences from it. During the book, Melody had a tantrum because her fish jumped out of the water. Will her fish die, or will she make it top 5 to the math bee? I think others should read it because it is a story that keeps you reading and does not make you want to stop.
My book is Scorched Trials. The book was written by James Ashner. My favorite part of the book was when Mino keeps beating up the crank. I think other people would want to read this book because every chapter leaves you in suspense.
The 14th Goldfish is my favorite book. The author is Jennifer Holm. I thought she was very creative with the idea of the book. My favorite part was when she first saw her grandfather and did not believe him when he said he was 13. I think others should read this book because it's such a good book and the description is very interesting.
Hi, my name is Kennedy Smith. My book is called The Adoration of Jenna Fox, and it was written by Mary Pearson. A 17-year-old girl wakes up from a year-long coma and is told her name is Jenna Fox. She doesn't remember the accident, she doesn't remember her life, and she doesn't remember herself. My favorite part is when she's in the attic and she cuts her knee. That's when she sees the blue gel, the illegal material that makes up 98% of her body. I think people should read this book because it's very interesting and easy. This book makes you feel like you are actually Jenna Fox yourself.
Hi, my name is Alyssa Kuntz, and the book I like that most that I read this year was A School for Good and Evil. My favorite part about the book is when Agatha saves Tedros because she knows that if she doesn't, he will die. I think other people will like this book because it is a good adventure for the reader.
I'm doing the Scorched Trials. I chose this book because I read The Maze Runner. There are 4 books in total of this series. My favorite part was the lightning when they're trying to seek shelter and Mino got struck by lightning. You should read these books in order to understand this amazing book, and I recommend it to you.
Just Lucky I Guess talks about all the things that Carol Channing has worked for and all the things that she has accomplished. Carol Channing is an actress, comedian, and singer, and she is the author. She has met a lot of different people. My favorite part of the book was when she was going downstairs to get something to eat in her apartment after hours, and the emotion alarms went off and the police came. Other people should read it because it has a lot of celebrities that involve hilarious things.
The author in my book is Walter Mosley. 47 is about a kid who was a slave, and he was called 47. It talks about what the slaves' jobs are, what they went through in the camps, and what did the 47 see in the camps that the guards do to the slaves. My favorite part was when 47 escaped the camp and ran as far away from the camps with his friends. When 47 and his friends were almost out of the country to be safe, 47 looked back and saw dogs chasing them and horses trying to get 47 and his friends. I think you should read 47 because it will talk more about what happened in slavery. I think you will like the book because it tells you what did the slaves feel, and it will make you never stop reading.
My name is Cage, and my favorite book this year was The Graveyard Book. It is about a kid that lives in the graveyard with a bunch of ghosts. His parents were killed by a guy named Jack, so he is raised by Mr. and Mrs. Owens, who are ghosts, and his guardian named Silas, who gets him everything like clothes and water, is a vampire. My favorite part is when Bod and his friend Scarlet are in this weird cave under the graveyard. When they get down there is this weird man who's there just to scare them away from the treasures buried there. Then when they come out, Scarlet gets in big trouble with her parent, and then she moves away. And Bod doesn't see her until the very end of the book. I think that people would want to read this book. It has a lot of weird twists and turns, and there is always something exciting going on.
Hello, my name is Tiara, and my book is Legend, made by Mary Lou, which is about a girl named June who is with the Republic, and she has a brother Matthias who also works with the Republic. Then there is Day, who is a rebel who says he doesn't work with anybody, and is in major trouble with the Republic. Though, when circumstances meet, June and Day have to work together to save each other. My favorite part is when they are in the skis fight, and Day throws a dust bomb to save June. I think others will read it if they like sci-fi action books.
My favorite book is The Maze Runner by James Dashner. The Maze Runner is about a group of kids that are forced to try to survive in a world that is set up by people. They have to try and figure out the maze and find the escape points so they can return back to the real world. My favorite part in this book is when Thomas and Minnow are the first people to survive a night in the maze. During the night in the maze, they are forced to try and escape the grievers. While trying to escape the grievers, they find new things about the maze. I think others would like to read this book because it keeps you on the edge of their seat.
My favorite book I read this year is A Dog's Way Home by Bobby Bryant. My favorite part of the book was when the dog's owner, Abby, saves a new girl's dog. This book is about a girl that loses her dogs in a bad accident, and the dog has to try to find his way home. I think that other people should read this book because it's a really quick book and it's one of those books you just want to keep on reading.
My favorite book is Divergent by Veronica Roth. My favorite part in this book is when Trish makes the decision to leave Abnegation and transfer to Dauntless. Her results were Abnegation, Dauntless, and Erudite. Normally you only get one result, but she got 3. That's what makes her divergent. I think others should read it because once you start, you can't stop, and you want to find out what happens next. Veronica Roth also wrote 2 other books called Insurgent and Allegiant.
My favorite book is Paper Towns by John Green. This book is about a girl named Margot Roth Spiegelman that runs away and her neighbor Quentin, or Q, as his friends call him, goes to find her. My favorite part of the book is when Margot sneaks into Q's room in the middle of the night to use his car. Then Q takes her around town to get some people in trouble. Then later that night, they break into SeaWorld because Margot had broken into every place else in town and wanted to break into someplace new. I think that people should read this book because it is really good, funny, and it is written in a way that is easy to understand. It is being made into a movie and will be out in theaters on July 24th, 2015.
Hi, I am George and I will be talking about Pulse. In Pulse, there is a girl called Faith Daniels. She lives outside the States. You ask, what are the States for? Basically, the world went to crap and some smart guy called Oscar Chance makes states where everything's perfect. Her parents are drifters. Drifters are people that are against the states. Faith has a special thing called the Pulse, which is telekinetic powers, and she's not the only one. My favorite part of the book is when Dylan, who also has a pulse, throws a card at Clara. Faith is not the only one with a pulse. If you like Divergent, you will like this, by Patrick Carmen.
My book is The Scorch Trials, the second book in the Maze Runner series. The Scorch Trials is about a group of boys and one girl, their leader Thomas, who led them out of the maze and are now at the hottest place on Earth, called the Scorch. They are all infected with the flare and have 2 weeks to make it to the safe zone to get the cure for it. Or they become a crank, and when that happens, they will go insane and will usually be covered in scabs like the rest of them. Scorch Trials was made by a man named James Dashner. My favorite part was when a very big storm happens and they are running to the town trying to get away from the huge lightning strikes that are coming down at them. I think people will want to read this book because it's not a short book, but it makes you want to keep reading and you just want to know what is going to happen.
Hi, my name is Tyler Vick and I will be talking about The Eye of Minds by James Dashner. It is about a boy named Michael and his 2 friends, Sarah and Bryson, who are playing a virtual game called the VertNet together where they have to go into a coffin-like bed to enter a whole new world. If you are a good coder, you can pretty much do anything or make yourself anything you want. Michael's one of the best programmers in the game, and he has chosen to go on a very dangerous journey. People assigned the mission to tell him that he and his friends need to get to the Hollow Ravine and stop Kane from creating tangents and trapping people in the game forever. They get there, and many outrageous things happen that will make you jump out of your seat. My favorite part of the book was the ending. It will blow your mind. The author James Dashner has also written many other books, including the Maze Runner series, the Infinity Ring series, and the 13th Reality series. I think other people should read this book because it is an amazing book and you will never want to put it down.
I don't think she dies about Robert Peck, who's living on a farm in the early 1900s and has to grow up quick when his dad suddenly dies from illness. And I think everybody should read it. It's a really good book. And see you.
My favorite part is when Park thinks Eleanor was right. She never looked nice. She looked like art, and art wasn't supposed to look nice. It was supposed to make you feel something. I think people should read it because it shoots back into time so you remember what it feels like to be young and in love.
My favorite book so far this year has to be Fractured by Megan Miranda. My favorite part of Fractured is when Delaney Maxwell woke up from her coma, which she got when she fell through the ice at Falcon Lake and didn't come up until 11 minutes later. When she woke up, she felt this itching and pulling sensation. After a while, the pulling became so strong she decided to follow it wherever it took her. She eventually comes across a room where an old dying lady is, and she has a strong urge to help her, but she can't. She finds out she is drawn to death, or death is drawn to her. Later on, she meets Tori Varga, who has experienced the same symptoms Delaney has. I think other people would want to read it because the ending comes completely out of nowhere and hits you by surprise.
Prisoner B3078 by Alan Grates. It's based on a true story about a young Jewish boy named Yankee in World War II that gets taken away from everything that he had and put into 10 different concentration camps. I think that people should read this book because it's based on a true story, and it is also set at an important time in history. My favorite part is when he goes back home, town, and finds some money in his dad's old coat.
My book that I'm doing is The Scorched Trials by James Dashner. The Scorched Trials is part of the series of Maze Runner. My favorite part was when they are running away from the guy that does not have a nose. I think you guys should read it because it is a very good book and a good series.
The book I want you to read is Overdrive. This is a good book for people who are interested in cars and street racing. The author is Eric Walters, who writes many books for young readers. He is currently 58 years old and lives in Toronto, Canada. My favorite part of this book is when Jake, the main character, was talking about his car and all the mods. When he pulls up to a Mustang at a red light, he nods to the driver that he wants to race. When the light turns green, both of the tires squeal. Not long after the light, the Mustang T-boned an SUV carrying a pregnant woman. I think others should read this book because it is very interesting and descriptive. Yes.
Hush Hush by Becca Fitzpatrick. My favorite part was when Nora was trying to kill Chauncey. Does she win? Read to find out.
I think others should read it because it's a pretty awesome series and a great book if you love fantasies.
My favorite book was The Truth About Forever, written by Sarah Dessen. My favorite part was when Macy started working for the catering truck. Why should others read this book? As a life-changing experience.
The Maze Runner by James Dashner.
My favorite part of the book was when Thomas goes in the maze just before it closes for the night because he sees that Albie is hurt and they won't make it into the glade in time. During the night it's very dangerous, so when a griever is coming by, he has the idea to hang Albie on the wall and hope that a griever doesn't see him. When the walls open the next day, they come out alive and everyone is so shocked because it's never happened before. I think the others will want to read it because all the books in the series have endings that aren't what you would expect. You never want to put the book down, especially when you get to good parts. The books go by really fast, and after you're all done reading it, you can watch the movie.
My book is The Last Man Down by Richard Picado. My favorite part was when the World Trade Center towers came down because the author described it so well. I think other people will like this book because it is an action-packed book that describes it well.
My favorite book this year was Will Grayson by John Green and David Levithan. My favorite part of the book was when Will Grayson met Will Grayson instead of Frenchie's the Porn Shop. I think this is a really good story because it shows that you should never give up and nothing is too much if you don't let it be. You should read this book because it has so many different genres to the story. It is a story of high school friends, coincidence, a love story, and it is also really funny. You would enjoy this book because there isn't really any specific genre to it, and it is the kind of story that in some parts you can really relate to.
The Fault in Our Stars by John Green. My favorite part was when Hazel and Augustus got to go to Amsterdam and meet Hazel's favorite author, Peter Van Houten. They were hoping for this wonderful man who would tell them answers about the book Imperial Affliction, like what happened to Anne of the Dutch and the Dutch Tulip Man. That didn't end up happening. Hazel gets angry with him because he is just avoiding the subject and all she wanted was answers. I think people should read this book because it is a book that shows the struggle of real life and what some people have to go through.
This book is about a girl named Hazel Grace, whose mom told her to go to a support group for her cancer because she didn't have any friends. Hazel decided to go, and she met Augustus Waters. They became really good friends and hung out a lot. Hazel shows Augustus her favorite book, An Imperial Affliction, and Augustus reads it and wants to take Hazel to see the author using his wish. My favorite part is the whole book. I would recommend this book to other girls because it is really good, and I read it in like a day. It is sad, funny, and exciting.
My favorite book that I read was The Host by Stephanie Myers. I think that anyone can like it because it creates different worlds. In the book, souls, which are small, helpless creatures, invade bodies and use them to take over many worlds. They come to Earth and start to take over humans, but we realize what's going on and go into hiding. Mulaney is one of the humans captured, and the soul, Wanderer, is placed into her. Mulaney convinces Wanda to help the humans. I think the best part was when Mulaney and Wanda start to get along, because in the beginning they hate each other, but you can gradually see character growth in both of them. They start to become like sisters.
Paper Towns, written by New York bestselling author John Green. Quentin Jacobson. His friends call him Q. He is preparing for graduation this upcoming week. He has secretly been in love with his neighbor Margot ever since they were little. Margot Roth Spiegelman. She is meeting the center of conflict. She was the most popular girl at school. Of course, she had a boyfriend too. She was beyond gorgeous. She never publicized her actual personality. She pretended to be someone she wasn't, when in reality, she is this mysterious girl. After their all-nighter ends, Q goes back to school and realizes that Margot wasn't there. He notices that there are clues for him to find her. The closer he gets, the more he realizes that maybe he did not really know her like he thought he had. Him and his friends skip graduation just to find Margot. They have a crazy, amazingly fun trip. You should definitely read this book. It is funny and heartwarming and with some Black Santa magic in it.